Hello everyone, my name's David. Today I am excited to bring you this exclusive interview with Bonz from Weekend, and we're going to talk about the exciting blockchain game RPlanet. So without further ado, let's hop into it. Mining all we can on the land, what's the plan when you got the TLM in your hand, huh? Thanks for being here today, everybody. We are happy to be joined by Bonz from Weekend. And of course, today we're going to discuss the exciting blockchain game, RPlanet. I can't wait to hop into it. How you doing today, Bonz?
I'm doing great, man. Great to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
I know you're a very busy man, so thanks for taking a few moments out of your day to join us. And we have a lot of people that are actually wanting to know a little more about RPlanet. Could you take a few moments to maybe summarize exactly what RPlanet is all about for those that are unfamiliar?
Sure, man. No problem. Yeah, if anybody's totally unfamiliar with the deal, I'll kind of just give the quick rundown. It's there's kind of two different aspects to it. There's like the what people kind of refer to as the DeFi aspect, which is basically this whole staking and reward system. So basically, all kinds of collections that are on Wax, you can stake your NFTs in our contract, and we give a reward of Ether, right? So I mean that's it. That's it. One aspect of the platform, and the other aspect is there's obviously a game, and that's what gives that token a value, because that token is the utility token for our game. So the game is essentially just like a little alchemy is kind of what it was based on. It's just an alchemy game. You're just kind of taking these. It started with these four basic elements. You're just taking these elements, throwing them in a generator, and trying to find the right recipe. And if you do, you come up with another element. And if you're one of the first 600 people to make that element, you get that NFT, which is also then stakeable on RPlanet to get more Ether, right? So yeah, in a nutshell, it's just basically an alchemy game using the Ether token as sort of the fuel to fuel the generator and mix elements to come up with elements which are then NFTs. So it's basically an NFT minting alchemy game.
Sounds exciting. I just picture like some mad scientist in a lab, like it's working, it's working. Just
Yeah, exactly.
good deal. So can you touch on how the crafting actually works in the game?
Yeah, so basically there's a recipe for each element, and there's just some combination of elements. So the game started out with the four basic elements, and using those four, say for example, one of the recipes is say pressure is 4 earths, right? So you have these basic elements, and by using some combination of those basic elements, you come up with another element, and then it just gets more and more complicated, right? So you moving down the line of these elements, they get more and more complicated, which makes them more and more expensive ether-wise to make. And so, of course, the more expensive they are to make, the higher the staking reward for those NFTs. So yeah, that's pretty much how the crafting works. It's
Sounds
basically a
exciting.
recipe. And then I'll also just kind of mention, because some people don't know, or when they're new, what often ends up happening is people do the wrong recipe, and you lose your elements, and the ether that you spent to get those elements is gone, and those elements are gone, right? And the elements are all fungible tokens, so you're throwing these fungible tokens into a generator. If you have the wrong recipe, you get nothing and you lose your ether, right? So we like to tell everybody, and it's a good kind of pitch to remind everybody here, like there's great tools that the community made. Shout out to Pigwig, shout out to Ivan, all these guys that have created all these great tools. Basically, you can look and see which, they're basically just scraping the data off the chain. Once someone completes a recipe and everybody knows it, that's basically public information. So what these guys have just gone ahead and did is, create tools that are going to scrape the blockchain, get that information, and make it available for everybody. So it kind of levels the playing field, right? So instead of one person knowing the recipe and deciding not to tell everybody, and creating as many of them as they can, it made it more a community where as soon as somebody gets it, everyone kind of knows it and has access to the same information. And I think right from the beginning, even before those tools, people are really generous and sharing it. I think it was more like a community thing. It was fun at the beginning. People were like sharing it in the Telegram, and everybody was kind of keeping track of what the known recipes were, and everyone was kind of starting their own little spreadsheet, and I remember I had a piece of paper and I was like keeping track of all the recipes, and it didn't take long before some smart guys came up with some cool tools to sort of automate that and make it easier. And of course, now the tools are so great that you can basically one click, one stop shop, and fabricate these like incredibly complicated elements that require, like in some cases, like 100 different crafts or something, it seems like, to come up with. And I think one of them the other day was flag, which is one of the more expensive ones. I think it costs almost 10 million ether to create this element. And I think in the process of that, though, you were getting 5 NFTs to make that one element. So yeah, you have little things like that where everyone's paying attention and they're like keeping track of, well, how many NFTs are you going to make if you craft this item? And so of course, as you see people get excited when something like that gets found, where crafting that one item, you're able to get a whole handful of NFTs from that, which of course is the kind of the name of the game, right? It's all about like minting new NFTs, opening those NFTs so that you have more NFTs to stake, or of course you could sell those NFTs. As people have been doing, obviously they have a value since they have a staking amount as well. So
sounds exciting. Lots to digest there, but it really sounds like the way this is developing with some of the tools that have been made, it's really encouraging and kind of it almost encourages like a community aspect. It sounds really cool, actually.
Absolutely.
So will upgrading land be possible? And if so, how will that work? I know that's kind of like been like a hot issue with the new land thing.
Yeah,
so.
no, that's a great question, man, because lots of people are asking about that and how that works. And so and it kind of ties into what we were just talking about, right? Because a lot of people wonder about like the Aether and the whole generator part. And a question we get all the time in the chat is like, well, what's going to happen once all the elements get found and we get onto this like whole next phase of the game where we're fighting robots and it's on this land and all this. And it's like the Aether is always going to have a value and the generator is always going to have a value, because it's the FTs, those fungible tokens that you're getting when you use that generator, that are going to be actually used to upgrade your land. So of course you want to keep upgrading, you want to continue to upgrade your lands. Well, you're going to need to create those fungible tokens. In order to create those fungible tokens, you're going to need that Aether. So the rigs, all the elements, all the staking power that you have, it's going to continue to have a value because people are going to need that Aether. And it's going to be, potentially even more valuable once people realize that, oh wait, if I really want to battle all these robots and upgrade my lands, I'm going to need, a whole bunch of those flags, that people were producing, and then they realize, oh wait, those flags are actually really valuable, and those fungible tokens are actually valuable, and people are actually selling those right now. Shout out to simplemarket.io. That's where you can go and trade the fungible tokens that are created from the generator, and those have a value too, because people realize already, we've announced that those are going to be actually needed to upgrade the land. So though, and of course they're needed for recipes. So sometimes there's actually deals on Simple Market where people are going there and they're actually getting fungible tokens for less than it costs to actually create them. So that's another whole little aspect of the game where people are kind of like, doing arbitrage between the exchanges or between the cost of these fungible tokens. And yeah, it's good stuff. It's like, it adds a whole nother aspect where you could just be crafting fungible tokens, these elements, and be hustling elements basically, and not even really be using those for other inventions or other discoveries. You could just be like selling those fungible tokens. But really it makes sense, like by holding on to them, not only do you have them for the land upgrades, what ends up happening is someone then discovers an element that's like higher tier or lower down the list, and then you find that you have a whole bunch of those saved up from a bunch of weeks ago when you minted a whole bunch of NFTs. You got a handful of those fungible tokens sitting in your inventory there. It's like you might have half of what you need to make a whole bunch of the next NFT. So it really makes sense to just stack up the ingredients that you think might be used in later discoveries, because they'll come in handy.
Yeah, stash those away, right? So
sure.
How do you decide like which NFTs are stakeable? Can you tell us what happens to the staked NFTs and explain like the smart contracts involved in that?
Yeah, sure. So at the beginning we basically had picked all like the handful of communities that were the biggest communities on Wax. I don't know if you're around Wax much a year ago, but there really wasn't too many communities. There was the original GPK launch, and basically there started a little community around that. Shout out to the OGs, the GPK OG. And those are a strong community of people that came. Some of them were collectors in the real world and they came to Wax, and some of them were just all Wax OGs and were excited to it was a little bit of nostalgia there. A lot of people, especially my generation, like we all had the real garbage pail kids when we were kids. So yeah, I mean, it all kind of started our
closets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Peeling them off your bed with a razor blade years later, the stickers. But yeah, I mean, and then it's like you got that nostalgia aspect, but you got these communities that were basically born out of these like of these NFT drops, right? So it's kind of started with GPK, and then you have this community kind of built around blockchain heroes. So blockchain heroes guys did a great job. They built a community and they did this launch. It was really successful. And so basically, we started out by just taking, okay, these are the biggest communities on Wax. We want to invite them in and incentivize them to come by offering this staking reward, right? So true to a lot of the DeFi platforms, right? You create this token and you incentivize people to come use your platform with that token. And that's essentially all we did. And so, just the NFTs, when people come stake them, they're basically just staking them to a contract. It's no different than, staking a token to any other contract. They're not like being used somehow in the background. There's no magic way that NFTs, you send them off to the spice mines to go work and slave for you, and they're generating money somehow. There's no magic behind the scenes of somehow how NFTs just can generate money. It's just a contract and an algorithm and basically code that dictates that we're going to pay you out this token that we created every hour. Of course, when we launch the project, just like anybody can create a token, right? It's easy. USIO tokens are easy to create. Anyone create a token and create a contract and create a staking contract and give away a token if you want. And what gives it value is the community, and what gives it value is the utility. And so, yeah, it's like we created this token, but we also created this utility for this token, which is this game. And so, of course, if the game wasn't popular or the token didn't have a use case, it probably wouldn't be super valuable, and people probably wouldn't bother to come and stake their NFTs on our platform. They would just keep them in their wallet like they already had been collecting dust. But basically, because now there is a use case for Aether, and there's a value to it dictated by the free market and by the community. People, of course, realized early on, yeah, I'm going to try this out. I'll stake my NFTs in this contract and collect this Aether. And for people who have, rightly so, people ask, well, what's the security involved? Well, the security is such where there's the contract is protected by multi-sig. There's known entities. The keys, it's all public. You can look at the account. You can look at the keys in the account. Crypto Lions was instrumental early on with helping build some of the stuff, and they're of course a well-respected block producer in the space and a guild on Wax, and basically producing a validator basically for every USIO chain out there. And I also work for them. I'm also doing community management for the Crypto Lions team. So it's they're very near and dear to my heart, and very, very well respected around USIO communities in general. So they bring a ton of respect and a ton of reputation, that they're putting on the line, that the security is legit. And also, our team has been around for many, many years. We've produced, the first ever fully on-chain MMO with prospectors. We have a reputation at stake too. So, we're all signers on this contract. So obviously a whole bunch of well-respected people would have to sort of collude together to try to actually do anything with this contract. Obviously, the people who stake NFTs to our contract, they're the only ones that can actually unstake those NFTs. We can't go in and just decide to unstake your NFTs. Your keys are associated with your NFTs. You still own your NFTs. They're just staked in our contract. And it's no different than, any other, DeFi contract where, if you go on a website and you're depositing coins in any other contract, your keys belong to your coins that are staked on that contract. And only you have the permission to go and interact with their contract using those tokens. So it's basically, in a nutshell, it's safe. It's safer than having them. Like, what's ironic and what's funny is a lot of people who are early on like skeptical, and as anyone should be. People should always be skeptical of anything and do the research and look into what security practices are there. But a lot of people, people are using the Wax Cloud wallet, and some people don't even have 2FA turned on, right? So it's like all it would take to hack your entire Wax Cloud wallet is like your Google Gmail password, which is like probably on some website on the dark web somewhere for sale for a couple bucks. And basically, right. And then they're worried about, the security of our contract, which is actually protected by multiple keys that aren't kept online anywhere. And, it's like infinitely more secure, orders of magnitude more secure.
We need to get our NFTs out of our Wax wallets immediately.
I was actually in that group of people who thought it was like, basically, I did a lot of research and I found everything you were saying. Like, it's a smart contract. You can't take the NFTs. There's no way they disappear. Like, they come back when I want them back. Like, it took me a while to get there, but I totally agree with everything you said. And it was really cool to actually figure it out. Anyway, Dave, let me go back to you.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, we got to let GBM throw a little something in every once in a while, right? Do you have any collaborations planned? Do you have any collaborations planned at this point? Like anything upcoming that you could?
Yeah, we're actually in talks with a couple different teams. I'm not sure what. I don't want to say anything I'm not supposed to say. I don't really think any specific collaborations have been made public yet. I think that basically, we sort of collaborate with all of the projects. Well, I shouldn't say all the projects, but a lot of the projects that we've then brought on board via staking. And to follow up on sort of your earlier question too, we do have like a process that people can like apply for staking, and of course we've gotten a huge response now. Like pretty much, obviously, as you can imagine, everybody in the wax space now who kind of knows about our project wants.
I've got three names I'm supposed to pass along to you on this call. So
yeah, exactly. So as you can imagine, we're completely inundated with our applications. We have a huge list. We're making our way through the list. We've been adding them as our devs have the ability to do so. And yeah, and we do collaborate with some of those teams. Like as we bring them on, of course, we're working with them, and we're always looking for ways that we'll be able to work with other projects and see how it can be mutually beneficial. And yeah, there's definitely some cool things sort of planned and in the pipeline that I'm sure everyone will be finding out about at some point soon. So yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff happening.
That kind of stuff almost like encapsulates the whole spirit of this space, right? It's just all about like everything's almost like interactive with each other. I don't it's just so cool how it's almost like everybody encourages each other to succeed, even though there's a competition, of course. But of course, it's like it's in everyone's mutual interest for everyone to succeed, so it's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
So do you have a favorite token? The wax on, is it the cap on or the weekend? What's your favorite token here?
Caponium, wax on, and the weekendite, right? The lands, of course, as what you're referring to, right? So we came up with these 4 different types of lands, right? And each of them sort of have their own mineral, and it's the weekendite that's actually the power, right? It's going to be the fuel that's going to be what these robots run on, right? So the weekendite seems to be, everybody kind of gravitates, assuming that we're going to need that weekendite, named after our team, of course, Weekend. But yeah, the other ones are all important. I mean, the other ones are all going to be able to build a specific type of robots. I think people are going to like it because it's like each of them are all going to be like their own sort of breed, if you will, of robot. And so they're all going to have their own little flavor. And it's like, so I see people kind of taking different sort of strategies. I see some people wanting to have like one of each land, make sure they have their one weekendite, and have one of each of the lands. And I see other people just basically because they ended up with a couple of one type, so they just decided, okay, I'm going to be a wax on boss, right? I'm going to be the boss of the wax on robots. And so they collect up a bunch of those, and some people are gathering up a bunch of land. The cool thing about the lands are as soon as you open that land pack, it's mining that mineral, right? And it's just stacking. And it's similar to when we first launched staking for NFTs, right? Like there was no use case yet for Ether. People some people just basically let it stack up, and other people were like, whoa, now as soon as it could be traded, people are like, whoa, wait, this is worth something, someone wants to pay me for this, sure, you can take it. And they were selling it for, in some cases, really cheap, and in some cases, of course, that then begins the speculation, right? It's a free market, so people are just going to speculate on it. So it's kind of the same thing happening now. People are, there's a market now for these minerals, people are trading them. There's no use case for them yet. I have a feeling once there's a use case for them, people are going to realize that they want them, and maybe some of the people who are selling them wish they might have held on to them, but you never know. It's like, that's going to be the fun part is once we get into this next phase of the game, we really get to start seeing how this is really going to work out. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think we're going to see like cool community building around these different types of robots and these different lands, and where you own your land and which region it's in. As the initial land was in the Swineland region, and then of course we launched the Borvalis region. So it's like I can kind of see all these sort of fun little like factions and communities within the community forming, and it's going to be fun.
It sounds awesome, and you kind of touched on it there a little bit, but can you touch on the robots and the robot battles? And I know you might not be able to divulge too much right now, but can you touch on that a bit and how that might work?
Yeah, so it's kind of like a it's kind of like a math-based game. It's going to be kind of like there's going to be strategy, obviously a lot of strategy involved. And I, and it's not that I'm like trying to not give information. I'm not even, I fully don't know enough, admittedly, to be able to talk too much about it. I haven't done a ton of research into the game that's kind of the logic that it's kind of based on either. But essentially people are going to be able to battle their robots, as we all know, right? And I think that there's an element too, and I've mentioned this before, that we'll be able to, maybe in the next, which is going to be, we're referring to, I think, phase 3, we'll be able to actually be able to choose to battle each other even, and possibly even be able to battle like over our lands. So it could be like actual land battles where my robots can face off against your robots, and the winner is basically going to own that land afterwards. So that's
wow.
going to be kind of like the whole next level of the game. But
it's like racing for pink
that
slips
sounds
or something.
insane.
It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, that sounds pretty wild, actually. Yeah. You better make sure you have a good army of robots if you're going to hop into that battle, right?
Yeah, and people, I think it's going to be kind of always such like, say you're a small, you're just having your one piece of land and you're just building your one robot army, and you're not really some kind of whale or anything. You'll be able to maybe battle some other small guy who just has one piece of land, and maybe you guys decide, well, hey, we're going to battle it out, and then one of us is going to end up with 2 pieces of land and one of us is going to end up with nothing, but it's up to people. No one's going to be forced to obviously battle. It was one of the questions we had before. People were like, well, wait a minute, I don't want someone to come and take my land.
Well,
so
I'm
no one's going
asleep.
to be able to take yeah, no one's going to be able to take your land. Your land will be safe. Your robots will be guarding it, and you'll have the choice of to battle other robots for your piece of land. But yeah, it should develop into and that will be sort of the name of the game. And that's, of course, like we mentioned on earlier, like that's where that those fungible tokens from the generator will always have a role to play in the game. So Aether will always have a use case and will always be part of the game, because as people are expanding their robot empires, those elements that we made on the spaceship on the way to the RPlanet are all going to be needed. So save those fungible tokens, ladies and gentlemen.
Sounds exciting. Have you crafted any new elements yourself? Do you have any hints to share with us?
Hints. So I did actually correct. I was the inventor of cannabis. I am the cannabis inventor. So I was so excited about that. So basically, and that was, I tried to do a ton of inventing early on, and I missed a bunch of them by like a hair. And I knew, and there was some that I was going down my list, and they were literally invented as I was like making my way down the list. I mean, early on, I think I was more willing to throw some into the fire as they got more and more expensive. I was
the
like,
community sniped your list from you, huh?
Yeah, well, I think everyone's just trying at the same time, and of course, we all have similar ideas. It was funny because it was like my daughter. I remember early on we were trying to invent obsidian, and I was convinced I could. And my daughter actually was the one who said, "Well, I think in Minecraft, obsidian takes and she nailed it. It was actually, she was right, and we were just making our way down the list to get to what she thought. But yeah, so it's been fun. Obviously, people are all, there is sort of the hive mind, right? Like something gets invented, but there's also, there really is actually, there's in the Discord, there's like a whole community of people who are like throwing out ideas and talking about, what they think are the recipes. Basically,
I noticed your Telegram was like that. It just seemed like a really good community. People were bouncing ideas back and forth off of each other, and it had a really good vibe to it.
Yeah, for sure. And the Discord as well. And shout out to Blockchain Luffy. He manages the Discord. He does a great job. Our Discord is huge now. And there's like a separate, there's like separate like chats for like all the different, so people are just trying to figure them out. People, and some of them are more logical than others. Some of them people think they're a little bit illogical. I guess that's part of the game. But for cannabis, like basically what I did was I sat and I was determined to figure it out. We all talked about it in this one chat I'm in. We were talking about it for a month. We're like, we got to get cannabis. And all I did was basically take all the other plant items that was like cabbage and carrot and tree and grass. I just took every single thing and said, okay, every one of them had basically the same ingredients, and I just used, so that generator tool, like we mentioned earlier, right? You can use that tool and see which things haven't been tried yet, or you can see if something has been tried yet. So that way you can avoid throwing things into the generator and having it be wasted, right? So through process of elimination, I just sat there and made a list. And then of course I took my list and went to the generator and put them all in and saw which ones had been tried already. And by the time I had put them all on the list, I saw there was only like a handful of things that were left that hadn't been tried. And then of course I'm just trying 2 of all the things, And yeah, I made my way down the list, and I invented it, you know. And then of course I start feeling like, well, geez, now that I invented that, I can invent other things. But it's like, it really is pretty tricky, because there really is just so many different combinations of things that it can really be. But yeah, it's like, at the same time, some of them are so obvious, and as soon as someone gets it, you're like, man, I thought of that too. I wish I tried it. And so yeah, now as the inventor prizes get more and more valuable, it's a huge reward to be able to come up with that inventor prize. Like you know, cannabis was like somewhat moderate reward. It was kind of like in the middle of the pack, so it was still a huge reward. But the things people are coming up with now, with these like expensive items, the inventors NFTs are like producing huge amounts of ether power. So yeah, they're expensive to try, but they're also you know, high risk, high reward is what I say a lot, and it really is a huge reward. So I'll get into that really quickly too, for people who don't know. Like, if you're the first to come up with the a new element recipe, you're the first one to try it. If you're right, you get an inventor NFT, which is like the equivalent of the mythic of that element, which at this point is huge, you know, because of course it goes up by rarity. You also get the first NFT pack, right? So as soon as you open that pack, no matter what, you're going to get a #1 mint. And with that, you know, and that #1 mint could also be any rarity, so you could end up with anything from a rare all the way to a mythic. So theoretically you could end up with 2 mythics off that one invention, which, you know, is highly unlikely, but you're going to get at least a mythic and at least a #1 mint of some rarity. And then you're also going to get there's a little prize shown in wax right at the top of the generator, and that's sort of the like a little like wax bounty for being the inventor. So it usually sits right around like 500 or above of wax, and so you get that wax as well. And then you also going to get the you know, basically that invention then stamps your name on the blockchain as being you know, the inventor of that item. And we're actually going to build
several incentives then to go
yeah,
out there and create, then, for sure.
there is. It is high risk, but it is, like I said, high reward that you
Well,
get.
but before we hand it over to GVM, he may have a couple of questions from the chat, but I want to know this. Do you have any upcoming updates that you can tease or share with us today?
Pretty much things that everybody knows about. I'll just quickly run them down, because we still get a lot of questions about this. There is going to be another rig sale that's going to be coming up somewhat soon. We had said that was going to be in May, so we're already now into May. So we're still, that the plans for that hasn't changed. So it should be sometime in the next 2 or 3 weeks within this period. So lots of people are excited about the rig sale, because a lot of people weren't involved with the game at the time of the last rig sale. So people are excited for that. Obviously, some of the things that we've talked about in some of the past interviews as well is going to be the FT swap. So we're building this fungible token swap. So obviously, you know, the obvious use cases are going to be for all these you know, the minerals. Those are all fungible tokens like you're getting from the land, but obviously you're also going to be able to, you know, create pools. So we've been kind of referring to it as like the Uniswap of for wax fungible tokens. So people will be able to create pools for like Aether wax, Aether Coponium, Aether, you know, which already sort of exists on Alcor Exchange, which is where they're traded now, but we're going to make it a little bit easier. You know, Alcor Exchange is a little bit more like a traditional exchange, where there's, you know, sort of an order book, and, you know, sometimes people who are newer to crypto don't quite even really know the difference between, you know, market orders or limit orders, or really know what they're doing, and sometimes it looks a little bit confusing to people. So we really want to make it like a one-click thing. Like, I have wax on and I want to trade it for wax. Click, boom, done. You know, kind of like Uniswap, right? You just enter the token you want and what token you want to swap it for, and you swap it, and it's a done deal. So we're really just trying to make it really super like user friendly. So that's one of our big things that we're working on now. And of course, what we've been telling a lot of the projects, because of course a lot of people ask us all the time, like, when is our project going to be able to be listed? You know, when are we going to get to the list of all the people that are waiting to be? We're developing a new system that's going to be a pool-based system. So and we're also going to make it such that you know, new projects will be able to be added easier. It's going to kind of sort of standardize adding the projects, and it's going to just solve a lot of the problems that we have with the current system. Some of the problems are you know, like what we've seen, just basically being able to, like, all projects are different, and they all have different schemas, and they all have different rarities, and they have all these different things that, or maybe burn mechanisms. So it just makes it really hard for our devs to have to go through and learn all these other projects to be able to like assign these values, and it creates a ton of work for us. And then of course, like, then they want to come out with another you know, they want to add on to the next, then, you know, they do another launch or whatever it is. And so then there's like more work for us. So what we're really doing is working on like a system by which the collections will be somewhat standardized and that they'll all sort of pull from the same pool. And in this way, it's gonna help a lot. And it's gonna solve a lot of the problems because basically, you know, it's gonna be up to that community to basically decide, you know, which of their rarities and which of their parts of their collection is going to basically yield, you know, whatever from that pool. And so, yeah, there's going to be that. And the another aspect of the pools, which is going to be really cool, is and I didn't really mention this before. So with the FT swap, there's also going to be a governance token that we're going to introduce as a reward for adding liquidity to the pools. So if you're mining, so getting back to that, you're mining these lands from the time you open the land pack, you have a stack of that weakenite, right? You can either save that weakenite, you're going to use it to power your robots. You can go sell that weakenite on the market and trade it for wax or aether or whatever you want. Or you could actually put that in a liquidity pool, similar to what people do on Uniswap, right? And so the reward for adding liquidity to these pools, besides some small percent of like the trading fee, right? You're actually earning the fees. You're also going to get this other fungible token which we're creating, which is going to be like a governance token. Now that governance token is actually going to entitle people. You know, sort of in the next phase of the game, we're going to actually leave it up to the community which projects are actually going to be able to be listed. So it's going to be like, you know, the people with the most stake in the game and our whole community, the people who are actually playing the game, who have a bunch of these governance tokens, it's going to be up to them. You know, so it's kind of like, it's not going to be, you know, just like, it's going to be, you know, what our community actually wants. So whatever our community really wants to be listed, which makes sense because that's going to be like the projects that we're all involved in and the projects that we're excited about are going to be the ones that are going to be listed. And so, of course, then there's an incentive for other people coming into the game or for other projects who are trying to get into the game and want their community to sort of assimilate and they want their project to maybe be listed on our planet. They're then incentivized to own land and try to get the governance tokens and represent themselves and be able to vote for themselves and have their own little voting block to try to get themselves voted on as a staking project, you know. So yeah,
Sounds like it all goes hand in hand. Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
GVM, do you have anything from the chat for us today?
Yeah, we have a bunch of questions. A couple people want to know. I'm sorry. Are there going to be more elements added, or is that it?
There isn't any plans to add more elements at this point, but I will say there's some cool things. I don't want to really give anything away. I think that's part of the quote unquote super secret surprise that's been mentioned before a couple times. I think it might even be in the roadmap, but yeah, there's some cool stuff coming. Yeah, I would say everyone's gonna be super stoked when you know, I would just say too, like we've addressed this number of times in the chat too, so I'll just go ahead and say too that, you know, like we're always thinking about how like the new player coming to the game is going to be able to get their foot in the door, so to speak. So yeah, just know that obviously our team is, you know, thinks about that a lot, and we are thinking about how we will be able to you know, give more room for, you know, the little guy, or, you know, the new player. I don't want to say the little guy, that, you know, a newer player who's just finding out about RPlanet. We want them to have sort of the same experience that a lot of the people who are in early got to have, because we know, you know, being able to you know, craft elements and open the packs is part of what makes the game so fun. Like being able to just log on every day and like rip a pack and get that sort of like, you know, adrenaline rush of like, you know, hoping for that really rare NFT, which is gonna, you know, could potentially be like, you know, people I've literally read in the chat, people are like, it's like life changing, you know, which is like, you know, it's funny to think about, but it's actually kind of true because some of them are really valuable. But yeah, it's like it's that fun, it's that chance of getting that rare card that I think makes pack openings, of course, really fun. So yeah, that is obviously something
that lottery ticket aspect of it all, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like it's like a slot machine. Like it's
it is,
rush.
And we basically gave people the opportunity to, like, you can come in once a day and you're gonna get your free pull on the slot machine, right? Like you're getting those tokens, and those tokens are you know, feed them into the slot machine and roll the dice, so to speak, see what you come up with, and maybe you hit the jackpot, you know.
A lot of people were actually asking about what you just addressed, having to do with the new players being able to do more things. That sounds really exciting. I'm not sure if you could touch on it or not, but is there a fixed number of lands, or is that just always is that not set yet? People want to know.
Well, so yeah, there was 5,000 lands that we released in the first sale, and 5,000 lands. So yeah, I mean the lands will always have like a fixed supply, of course. But yeah, there will be more lands released. We have actually announced that already. So yeah, I think as of now, there's been we've done 2 land sales, each with 5,000 pieces of land, and there is another one that will be announced at some time, but it's not actually going to be anytime soon. The next land sale probably won't be until after we've established the phase 2 of the game.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah. So yeah, the lands that are around now are going to be the lands that we'll be starting the next phase with. So yeah,
Cool.
that's kind of.
A lot of people also want to know, well, I kind of want to know, do you have a favorite rig? Like I have one that's a record player that I really like, but I'm partial on music. Do you have one that you're like, you like?
Yeah, I do. My favorite rig is the Phototron rig, and that's the one that looks like it's like a little mini like there's a little like cannabis plant growing in this like little self-contained device. And anybody who's like my age, who at least if you're from in the culture like that I kind of was part in when I was younger, it's like, so in the 90s, like back in back in the day, it was like High Times magazine used to have this ad for this little like self-contained grow box, and it was like for growing weed. Like they were of course marketing it to like weed growers, but it was really just a little device for growing like a single plant with like in this like little like indoor setup, right? And that's basically what the weed miner is. It's like a little Phototron. It has a little weed plant in it, and so yeah, that one's got to be my favorite.
That's awesome. A couple of people want to know, like, is WeCan its own entity, or is there like a wax node that supports you guys, or is there some relationship between you and a wax node?
No, we're not a block producer. We're not validators on the Wax blockchain. We're just a independent blockchain gaming team. Although it has been suggested to us that we should be a Wax node. We could probably be a guild. We probably have enough support in the community to get enough votes, and obviously have the technical team to be running the infrastructure. But anyway, yeah, no, we aren't actually a block producer on any chain. We are specifically a blockchain gaming development company, and we, of course, our first actual blockchain game launched on EOS blockchain. So we've been basically sort of entrenched in the USIO ecosystem, and I've sort of gravitated towards Wax because it's more the gaming NFT chain. It's also cheaper to transact on. And it's just the onboarding, everything with Wax. Obviously, they've nailed it with onboarding, with taking care of the resources for users, which obviously actually has recently been sort of a hiccup. Obviously anybody who's watching this right now is probably who's using Wax has probably saw a CPU error or two in the last few weeks. Obviously, with the crazy influx of all the bots with trying to farm alien worlds, the Wax team has had to make some changes to the resource model. They're working on some fixes, but yeah, it's obviously going to be changing, and people are going to want to know about staking some Wax for CPU. It's important to kind of learn about how the network resources work. So just in case anybody doesn't really realize, it's like, so instead of charging you for every transaction, like what happens on Ethereum, where you're paying for gas every time you want to transact, obviously on Wax, you realize you can send things around essentially for free. Well, the cost of that is the CPU cost of that is from staking tokens. So if you're a power user or doing a lot of like transactions per day, your CPU resets every day. So as long as you have enough Wax staked to sort of complement the amount of transactions you do, it's basically granting you permission to transact on the network. And that's kind of the whole point of like proof of stake, right? And delegated proof of stake, you're proving you have some stake on the chain, and that enables you to transact on the chain and use the chain and use your allotment of network resources. And also with that gets you also earn the responsibility to be able to vote for guilds. So it's representative of who you want to be producing the blocks essentially, right? Like the validators. So by owning a stake of Wax tokens, you're part of the chain, you're part of the governance, and you're kind of doing your part by voting and by keeping good guilds and people who are trusted and doing a good job running infrastructure and running, you know, doing their job to protect the chain and to keep everything running smooth. And so yeah, by taking part in that, you're actually rewarded with Wax tokens. So a lot of people, in fact, I'm surprised because a lot of new people are just showing up to Wax, and some people weren't even really sure how this worked. And so in case anybody doesn't really realize yet, yeah, when you stake Wax, you and vote, you're getting a Wax reward too. So it's a way to just kind of like hold on to your Wax and keep sort of saving it up. You got your kind of piggy bank going, right? Where you can just keep adding Wax to it. And the more you stake Wax, the higher your reward gets. And, I think you have to vote maybe once a week, and you'll continue to get Wax rewards. There's also, I'll give another shameless plug here for waxybot.io. That's another project made by the Crypto Lions team, where it actually, you can automate your claims. So instead of having to log on once a week and refresh your vote to maintain 100% vote strength and collect your reward, the bot sort of automatically does that. So every week it will automatically vote on behalf of you, and it will automatically claim your reward and distribute that back to you. So if anybody is interested in that, check out waxybot.io.
That sounds really cool. I was curious, do you have any, so people want to know what you think the last element to be discovered will be?
Well, by looking down on the bottom of the list, you could see it is Upliftium is the one that sort of like, the way that it kind of works is like, the further down the list you go, the more expensive they are sort of to create. And they also, theoretically are harder to come up with. But the cool thing about Upliftium is it's actually going to have it's going to come with the first 10 people to discover Upliftium are going to actually also get a piece of land included, like automatically.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so you're going to get a piece of land in the metaverse, in the Uplift metaverse. So yeah, and I mean, it's really random because it's really hard to say what I think would be the last one, because someone could come across, Upliftium tomorrow, and it, it's so random. Like no one really knows what the last one could be. It's going to probably end up being one that no one's thinking is, because it just is that like off the beaten path as far as like what you would think would be involved with it, and time will probably continue going on where people will just have tried everything that you could think of, and eventually someone will get it because they'll, by process of elimination, so many things will have been tried that someone will get lucky probably, but yeah, it would be anybody's guess as to which one will actually be the last one to get discovered.
Got ya. I mean, Dave, it's been a long AMA. You wanna wrap it up? There's so many more questions, but I think we've touched on so many things here.
And I know you're a little older and you probably need to like get ready for bed and stuff too, right?
It's dinner time. It's like 4 p.m. here.
That's right. He'll be in bed in 90 minutes. We do have to wrap this up. Bonz, thanks for joining us today, man. We really appreciate it. It's been fun. Do you have anything you'd like to say before we wrap it up?
No, man. I appreciate you guys having me on. You guys do great. I've been following what you guys are doing. You guys keep up the good work, and thanks a lot for having me, man. And I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here today. And ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Bonz from Weekend. And also, thank you for joining us today. We truly appreciate it. Check out Wax Gamer on YouTube for the replay tomorrow. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, guys.
That was by far one of the easiest yet most exciting interviews I've ever done. Once again, thanks so much to Bonz from Weekend for joining us today. And thank you for joining us and listening today. And don't forget, you can always catch us on the web at waxgamer.com. Catch up with you soon. Mining all we can on the land. What's a plan when you got the TLM in your hand, huh?